Hello my beautiful people. So something a little different for you this time. You guys are used to seeing me read the tarot for you. You are used to me talking about numerology. It's time for some astrology. We are stepping into eclipse season, and yes, you will see the whole internet and all of YouTube is awash and abuzz with all of the with all about this stuff. I've got my trusty notes here. The reason I'm doing these solar eclipse specials, and we'll be doing all of the eclipse specials, is because not only is it a different energy, I mean, we've had a little dip into it, but this is where it gets real. This is where it gets, intense, and where it gets serious. And because we're switched from the Leo Aquarius axis, which, trust me, I felt because I am a Leo rising and an Aquarius sun. So I really felt those ones, and actually I can now, looking back on it, really see the benefit of it. At the time it felt like absolute fucking shite, if I'm completely honest with you, because I felt like a ping pong ball in the middle of a storm out at sea. That's just the truth of it. You know, there were moments that were really great that I could see the benefit of, but there were some moments that I was like, do you know what, I don't know how this is going to serve my greater good, but in hindsight, I can see how it worked. So there's a couple of things that I want to talk about before we go into the video itself, right? And I've got, my trusty notes here, because as many of you know, astrology, tarot I can do with my eyes closed, right? In fact, I probably could do it with my eyes closed, even though it's all about the symbols, right? But just from the feeling, I would be able to do that. Whereas astrology is such a bigger and broader subject, and I don't have nearly as many years under my belt in that field as I do with the tarot, with the cards and the symbols there. So I always have notes because I'm just not as practiced. I call myself a baby astrologer. A lot of people say, I think you're being too harsh on yourself, but whatever, it's not about that. So with that said, before we go into your personal, horoscope, eclipse scope, tarot scope, whatever you want to call it, right? Yes, there will be tarot. Come on, that's what I do, right? There's a few things that I want to clarify on. So you see this, I've drawn it out, and yes, it looks pretty, and it looks mysterious, and it's got the symbols on the wheel and all the rest of it, and we're all familiar with what a chart looks like. Well, 90% of people nowadays are familiar with what a chart looks like. The problem that this chart creates is that people tend to see this kind of thing, especially a big event like an eclipse, as just a flash in the pan. They kind of see it like a static moment. And while it is true that the specific moment of the eclipse will imprint your life with a specific type of energy, right? And that's really important to remember. So when you read somebody's birth chart, when you look at somebody's personal astrology, when you see a personal one of these for somebody, what you're actually looking at is a specific moment in time that is imprinted into their DNA, right? There's, all of the stars aligned in a certain way to give you a certain energy that was going to unfold. Astrology breathes, it moves. Human beings are not, we're multifaceted. We move, we breathe, we grow, we change, we evolve. Just like the moon, we are cyclic. We go through great, awesome periods, and we go through low, sort of not so awesome periods. And that's one of the things that you really need to understand. This isn't just an event that will happen on this day and then you can forget about it. It's kind of like a toolbox. Imagine it's like a gift that the universe gives you on a specific day and says, right, here you go, I'm going to give you this, and you get to unpack that over the next 3 to 6 months. It's never just a flash in the pan moment, and this is why people talk about the eclipses so much, and why people often say, well, this will happen, over the next 3 to 6 months, and sometimes even further beyond. Like I said, I can see a lot of the stuff that I'm doing and living and experiencing now in relation to the eclipses that we finished up in Aquarius and Leo. So it's really relevant stuff, but you need to understand it's a process, not an event, right? It's an unfolding of energy that is imprinted into you on the specific day. So pay attention to that day, because it may well have elements of what this energy is going to be like for you over the next 6 months, what it might unfold, how it might grow. But don't let this video, don't let me, don't let anybody ever reduce you or your infinite beingness down to just a specific set of events that are all about your, oh well, your second house is your money. Yes, it does represent that, and it's good to know that. And it's great to see, if we can predict these things accurately, which is wonderful. But don't let anything, any system in the world, astrology, tarot, numerology, don't let me, any other reader, whether tarot reader, astrologer, whatever, don't let anyone or anything reduce you down to those separate sort of compartments. You are a multifaceted being. And it is good for you to, so there's the dualism, bad Rafi. And you are a multifaceted being, and it's important that you allow yourself to be all of that and to grow throughout these processes that take place, right? Don't ever limit yourself to anything that anyone tells you. You always get a chance to choose. Now, before I go off on a complete tangent, I will give you some overviews. So, solar eclipse is an initiatory energy. It's a beginning of some sort, because it's kind of like a supercharged or jacked up new moon that's like, yeah! It's got lots of energy behind it. And when you get a new moon, you've got the sun and the moon together, right? That in itself is the god and the goddess coming together in creation. Now, this one is taking place in Cancer, which is really important for loads of reasons. So the whole axis of Cancer and Capricorn are going to be lit up. Cancer represents the mother, in the fourth house, protection, love, nurturing, nourishment, that place that you go to seek shelter, to seek comfort, or even lock yourself away from the harsh realities of the outside world. It's your feelings, it's your attachments, it's your bonds, right? Whereas Capricorn, and the Cancer is the natural house of the moon as well, so it's really worth keeping an eye on that. And it represents the mother, because it comes in the guise of the fourth house. Whereas Capricorn, where we've got quite a lot going on in the opposite sign, and this is where the eclipses are going to bounce between, right, is the 10th house. This is the external structure, the things out in the world, but it's also the father. It's where we meet authority, it's where we meet governance, it's where we meet the things that we appear to not be able to change. It's where, the 10th house is your career, how you show up out in the world, how you are presented or received by the wider world. So these are really big things to look at, right? And because it's the father, it's the line in the sand that you meet, where you will go no further, where you meet authority, where you get that kind of, no, you will not pass, you cannot do this. And it's not always about the negative stuff. Sometimes it's to hold you back from something or to teach you a lesson, right? So when you see that mother-father axis, that's kind of what's going on there. So it's really important to pay attention to that stuff. What I've talked about, it's a process. Good to look at where this is happening. Right, so try and stay with me on this, and I'm using myself as an example so that you can do this for yourself, right? So look at where the eclipse is taking place, and then think about where that happens according to your sun, moon, and ascendant. So my moon sign, I'll start there, is in Cancer. So this suggests that my inner world, possibly even my home, may change over the next 3 to 6 months. Something about my emotional inner world, or even my home, my dwelling, may very well change because it's happened, or the identity of my home, or something of that nature may very well change, right? As a Leo ascendant, this is happening in my 12th house. My 12th house is all to do with the past, the things that are hidden, that are private, subconscious drives and not necessarily desires and urges, but it can also be hidden enemies. It could be people that don't necessarily, present themselves as one thing, but don't necessarily mean you good. Then finally, as an Aquarius, this is happening in my 6th house, which is all to do with my work. So something to do with my old work, my old workplace, my old work life could be coming through. So those are my big three, sun, moon, and ascendant, right? It's good for you to find out where they are, because it's going to give you that kind of different dynamic of understanding, so that you get an idea of where this is happening, why, not why it's happening, you know why, because of the astrology, how it's likely to unfold, and what that could possibly mean for you. So one of the things that I've put here is it could suggest that things are about to take a big leap forward over the 6 months because of services rendered, right? So the 12th house is the past, and the 6th house is work. So it could be some efforts that I've already sown in my own personal past over the last 6 months may now start to yield results or dividends or rewards, you know, depending on what I've put out there. And I'm currently crossing fingers, toes and bits at the moment, like thinking back like, shit, have I done enough? Hopefully I have. You know, I've done my best to be of complete service to you guys in and of the world. So with that said, let's get to the personal astrology for each sign. Take care. See you in a moment. Scorpio, welcome to your solar eclipse special with me, Raphael. Let's go straight into it. So this eclipse point is happening for you, my dear Scorpios, in your 9th house. Your 9th house is all to do with your belief systems, your belief structures. It's also about how you interact with people that are different to you, people from foreign cultures. It very often sees travel. And the fact that this is happening in your 9th house, for me, really does talk about travel for you. It suggests that there's some kind of adventure on its way into your life. And so as we talked about, the solar eclipse it's a beginning, right? It's a beginning that makes itself known or starts to bring or draw things into it as the next 3 to 6 months sort of evolve. So with that said, with your 9th house, you know, and the fact that it's through the guise of Cancer, suggests that caring for other people, getting to know other people's stories, understanding who they are at a deep level, nurturing and nourishing people, and also contacts from afar, people from, you know, international places, so to speak, but also people from a very different background or upbringing to you. You're going to want to nurture those kind of people and build relationships with them in some way, shape or form. Now, the 9th house is also about travel, right? It's about going to distant places, foreign places, places that force you to grow. And if you want to grow from the inside out, Scorpios love travel because they love to get different aspects of different people, because they're such deep thinkers and feelers, right? Connecting with different people from different places is new stimuli, right? They really thrive on this sort of stuff. Maybe not overtly, it might not be something that they talk about to just about everybody, Scorpio, shocker. Right, but the truth of the matter is they love that. They love interacting and connecting with different people. The fact that this is happening in your 9th house means that you can nurture and nourish those connections, but also you can start to take a look at your own belief structure and how that might be changing, how it might be evolving, what your idea of the cosmos, God, the universe, Buddha, Allah, Chi, what do you think about when you think about those things? What do you feel? What is emoted within you when you think of God and religion and all of those things? All of that stuff could be coming under the astrological spotlight, so to speak, and also could be highlighted and relevant for you in the months ahead. It does look like you're connecting with a lot of international people and finding broader ways to connect with people at a distance. Let's have a look. It spells out brand new adventure, and it asks you to be along for the ride and ready to move when opportunities strike. So you've got to be ready, and it's also your belief structure coming into focus in a big way. You have an innate understanding, or rather an innate need at the moment to understand faith on a deeper level. So when I talk about, you know, all of the buzzwords for God and all the rest of it, this is like you really checking in with yourself. What do I believe about religion, about God, about faith? What is my faith placed in? And your mirror for that out in the world is people of a different background, people from foreign cultures, people that have different understandings or perspectives or higher learning when it comes to God, when it comes to religion, and how those things can weave into and also enhance our lives in some way, shape or form. This is about you nourishing that within yourself and also nourishing your need to know more, to gain a different perspective, to find new philosophies that are going to feed and nourish your soul. The fact that you've got then Saturn and the South Node in Capricorn right opposite that on the nodal axis, right, is really interesting, because then in the third house, you've got Saturn, which is restriction and limiting. So it limits things, but it also crystallizes things. So as your belief structure changes or comes into focus, you could be then having this opposition with Saturn where it kind of says, right, okay, now that I've found those beliefs, now that I've really cleared out the beliefs that I don't necessarily resonate with anymore but might have been handed down to me, where is it, or rather how is it, can I crystallize those things? How can I make them evident or bring them into my everyday understanding or life, right? Because the third house rules your everyday life. It's your skills also. So the fact that this is an opposition, it makes you uncomfortable, right? Because it means that both of these things are vying for your attention, and they will push and pull you in different ways. In the third house, you've also got the South Node, which is an ending of something. So this is about speech. It's about communication. It could be that, in Capricorn, it's the external structures. And it also represents the father, right? So it could be this dynamic between your third and your ninth is going on. So you're talking about what you believe, about what others believe, and you're finding challenges there, fresh perspectives that kind of force you to go, oh, well, that makes me triggered, or actually it makes me fervent in my speech. Like, I feel like I'm passionate about that. Why? Follow that why, follow that passion to the source, right? Of what is the feeling within me and why is it making me speak or communicate in these ways? The other thing as well is in your third house it does ask you to observe relationships with people in your everyday sphere. This could be your neighbours, it could be siblings, it could be people in your local community. In the third house, we also find your skills, right? So in the third house, we also find things that you can do, like it's how you use what you have, right? And in that way, with Saturn and the South Node there, it could be saying to you, right, what are my transferable skills? And for some of you, you might be trying to bring certain skills into your current vernacular or understanding, and they may not have a place. And this is the thing, 90% of all the skills that we have or gain throughout life are transferable. However, some skills that we gain, or some understandings or patterns of speech or thought that we gain, don't necessarily transfer well. And if that's the case, you will find that between this third and ninth axis, you might be trying to speak or impose something onto people from a different background or a different culture or a different religion, and they're like, well, no, that doesn't resonate for me, it doesn't make sense to me, and because I don't understand it, it's not necessarily something that I resonate with. And you could find yourself doing that as well, right? And neither one of you is wrong. Neither one of you is wrong or right over the other. It's just difference. So understanding that dynamic is going to be really important. The South Node is a release point as well. So it may very well see you letting go of different types of speech or patterns of speech or communication that you've held on to. This will see you really looking at your own personal communication style, what you have to say, and also how you say it. And some of that might be shifting and phasing out because of this new stimulus that's being pulled in by the solar eclipse. So yeah, then we've got the Uranus in Taurus sextile in the eclipse, which is nice because it's happening between your 9th and 7th houses. So your 9th house we've talked about, your 7th house is your relationships. It's how you connect with people on a one-on-one basis. So it's really interesting that you've got this third and ninth thing going on, because then it suggests that, you know, Uranus could bring you a partner very, very spontaneously that could be wildly different to anything and anyone that you've connected to before. It could suggest also that somebody is coming in that will challenge you and change you, but for the better, right? Because it's all happening from within. The other thing with the 7th house, it could also be a partner is so suited to who you are and what you're about, that there is something about this person that but there's something about them that might be foreign, cultured, or from a very different background, right? Because it's sextile in your 9th house. And a sextile tends to be a bit more of a harmonious, or rather an easier aspect to work with. Now, because they're coming in through Uranus, they come in sort of suddenly and shockingly, you might find that this person rubs you up the wrong way at first. And so you probably think, like, when this person shows up, oh, I couldn't fucking imagine ever being with them. And then over time, as you get to know them and you grow and you challenge each other and change each other on your viewpoints and your communication, you could then sort of look at them and say, well, actually, you know what? This person is so much like me. And actually, we share loads in common. And that's really cool, but very uncanny. It also could see you being asked to go on some form of spontaneous travel with this person. You could end up traveling spontaneously and wind up bumping into somebody that just absolutely knocks your socks off, both in a good and aggravating way. You know, and it could be that this person is a potential for you. Now, if you are already partnered and you're with somebody, this suggests that there is new life being breathed into your relationship in some way. And it suggests that both of you will change your understanding of what you value about your relationship. It suggests that something about how you interact together and how you face things together is coming under the spotlight. It sees you wanting to nourish the Cancerian aspect, the growth of it, but it also sees you wanting to grow and sustain that relationship, which is really, really nice. I mean, whatever happens, your 7th house is being lit up by Uranus, which can see a status change happen very quickly and advancing very suddenly, which is lovely. I mean, I really like this because it does suggest, and even if for those of you that are partnered, some form of spontaneous travel could literally just show up for you. So stay tuned. With that said, let's have a look at what your card is for the solar eclipse. And you get Justice, right? So it's all about choice. It's all about decisions. It's all about knowing that there is give and take in life. And with the Justice card coming in as your overall message for this eclipse, pay attention to what really feels right to you. Pay attention to how you make decisions, what it is that goes into it. Are you purely based on instinct and feeling? Are you too much in your mind? It's kind of saying whatever the seesaw is, you need to bring things into balance, because this card represents the sign of Libra. So it asks you, if you're all instinct and feeling, bring some logic into it. If you're all logic, bring some feeling and instinct into it. Find that point where things start to balance out. Whatever it is that you feel like you may be not necessarily lacking, but things that you don't necessarily rely on, allow them to make themselves known to you over the course of the next few months. I wish you an abundance of all of that good stuff. Have a fantastic time of it. Let me know in the comments. Take care, and I'll see you soon.